Narcissists rarely destroy you in obvious ways. They don't smash things, they don't scream, and they don't leave bruises that anyone can see. They do it quietly, through a hidden tactic that turns your own mind against you. It's called reactive abuse. This happens when a victim finally breaks down and reacts, cries, yells, or tries to defend themselves after being pushed to the emotional edge. And right then, the narcissist seizes the moment and flips the story. "See," they say, "you're the crazy one, you're the problem." From that moment on, the game changes. The abuser hides behind your reaction, using it as proof that you're unstable, irrational, even toxic. Slowly, you begin to doubt your own memory, your emotions, and eventually your sense of truth itself. The manipulation deepens through confusion, guilt, and shame. You start apologizing for your own pain. You start defending the person who's hurting you. And that's the real power of this tactic. They don't just abuse you, they make you believe it's all your fault. But how does that happen, and why does it make even the strongest people begin to question themselves? Before the explosion, there's always silence. Not peaceful silence, but a thick, heavy quiet that makes you hold your breath. A stillness where even the sound of breathing feels dangerous. The narcissist doesn't start with rage or insults. They start with tiny, almost invisible changes, a cold glance, an unexplained distance, a detached tone. One day they're warm, gentle, and attentive. The next day they're cold, distant, as if you never existed. You don't know what changed, but you can feel it. The light that once warmed you is gone. And then you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Did I say something that upset them? Am I just not enough? The moment you begin blaming yourself, the trap closes. The narcissist makes you believe that their love depends on your behavior, that if you are calm enough, understanding enough, gentle enough, they'll love you again. From that point on, you start walking on eggshells. You speak softly, you breathe carefully, you teach yourself how to avoid causing problems. Every word, every gesture is measured, just to keep them from getting angry, distant, or silent. You start censoring yourself. You stop sharing your real feelings because you're afraid of being called too sensitive. You begin apologizing even when you've done nothing wrong. And the worst part, you start calling all of this love. But it isn't love, it's emotional conditioning. The narcissist is slowly draining your energy by forcing you to constantly adjust to keep them happy. Every time they grow cold, you try harder. Every time they go silent, you beg and lower yourself to reconnect. And every time you do, they feel more powerful. The terrifying part is, they don't lash out randomly. They calculate. They push you to the edge with indifference, sarcasm, and cold distance. They know exactly when you'll break. They know the precise moment when you can't take it anymore. And when you finally cry, lose your composure, or scream in despair, they smile and say coldly, "See, I told you, you're always the problem." Nothing about this script is accidental. It's a carefully crafted manipulation, an emotional trap designed to make you react and then use that reaction to destroy you. That's how they control you. And without realizing it, you're playing a game where every move has already been planned long before you ever sat down at the board. And then, that moment finally comes. The moment you can't take it anymore. After days of trying to stay calm, swallowing your tears and forcing yourself to keep the peace, you finally break. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. With feelings, with limits, and with pain that's been suppressed for far too long. You cry, you raise your voice. You shout that you can't take it anymore. You try to explain, to defend yourself, to make them understand how much it hurts. But all they see is your reaction, not the reason behind it. And that's exactly what they've been waiting for. When you finally explode, they don't get angry. They step back, cross their arms, and stay calm. Their eyes turn cold and disturbingly composed, like someone watching a movie whose ending they already know. In that moment, the power shifts. They speak softly, almost pitying you. "See, you're overreacting again. You really can't control your emotions, can you?" And you freeze. Because they're half right. You did lose control, but they don't mention why. No one talks about the silent treatments, the sarcasm, the cold indifference, or the countless times you were treated like you didn't exist. No one sees how they pushed you to the edge, only to stand there, pretending to be shocked when you finally break down. From the instant you react, you're branded, the one who overreacts, the emotional one, the problem, and then they tell that story to others, co-workers, friends, even your family, a half-truth carefully told, just enough to make you look unstable. You start hearing your own voice in your head, the voice of someone who lost their temper, trembling with pain, and slowly you start believing them. You think, maybe I really am too sensitive, maybe they're just trying to help me. You begin apologizing, you lower your head, trying to fix things, and they, standing above it all, watch you shrink yourself, and in the quiet, they smile. That's how reactive abuse works. They don't need to hit you or yell at you, they just need to make you explode for them. They turn your genuine emotions into evidence against you, and when others look in, all they see is someone losing compassion, while the narcissist appears calm, reasonable, even compassionate. But what they don't see, what no one sees, is that before you ever screamed, you stayed silent 100 times. You swallowed your pain, held back your anger, tried to have calm conversations, hoping they'd just understand. You chose dialogue over conflict, listening over reacting, holding on instead of walking away. And none of it ever mattered. Then, when you finally couldn't bear it anymore, when your heart cracked under the weight of injustice and silence, you cried out. And that's the moment they won, because now they have proof. They don't need to explain anything else. All they have to do is bring up that one moment whenever you speak the truth. Remember the time you went crazy? Who's going to believe you now? That's the perfect twist of manipulation. Your genuine anger becomes their shield, your pain becomes their weapon, and you, the only one who knows the full story, begin to doubt yourself. You start wondering, was I really too much? Am I the one with emotional problems? And while you're questioning your sanity, the narcissist sits comfortably on their throne of control, savoring their victory, because they've made you believe that you are the source of all the pain. After the outburst, you think it's finally over. You believe that once you've spoken your truth, once the tears have fallen and the pain has been exposed, they'll understand. But they won't. That's just when a new game begins. The game of reversal. From the moment you lose your composure, the narcissist gains a new weapon, a story to tell. And they tell it perfectly. Calm, rational, detailed, convincing. Every line is crafted to paint the picture of someone who has tried so hard to endure an unstable person. That unstable person is you. They talk about you with pity. I just wanted to help her, but she always misunderstood me. They talk about you with exhaustion. I've tolerated so much, but she never changes. And they lie, not crudely, but skillfully. They weave together half-truths, carefully trimmed fragments of real memories, edited and rearranged into a distorted picture that everyone can believe. To outsiders, they appear calm, logical, even sympathetic, and you, the one who endured silently, suddenly become the unstable one. They mention the time you screamed, but no one remembers the hundreds of times you were met with cold indifference. They talk about your angry messages, but no one knows about the countless texts you sent before, desperate and unanswered. Slowly, reality starts to slip from your hands. Feels like you're living inside a movie whose ending has been rewritten. Every time you try to explain, they repeat the same phrase. No one will believe you. And the most terrifying part is, you start to believe it. That's when the gaslighting begins. They make you doubt your own memory. I never said that. You imagined it. Why do you always remember things differently? Each sentence slices into your sense of truth like a small, sharp blade. You start double-checking your memories, your emotions, even your sanity. You live in a reality where the line between right and wrong, truth and illusion, slowly dissolves. You feel like a lost soul in a maze. Every time you touch a piece of truth, they change the path. Every time you try to prove something, they change the rules. They don't need to be right. They just need to make you uncertain that you are. And once that happens, they've already won. You begin to fall silent more often, not out of peace, but out of fear. Fear that anything you say could be twisted, edited, or turned against you. You learn to suppress your emotions. You learn to stop reacting. You learn to adjust yourself to avoid trouble. But in doing so, you lose yourself. Every day you stand before the mirror, but the reflection staring back isn't you anymore. You can't tell what's real and what's fake. You start living in their world, speaking their language, believing their definitions of love, mistake, crazy, and stable. You slowly become a background character in the story they've written for you. And the most heartbreaking part is, you start to think maybe they're right. Maybe you really are too sensitive. Maybe you really are difficult, immature, unstable. That's the peak of gaslighting, when the victim no longer just gets manipulated, but begins to manipulate themselves. At that point, they don't need to cage you anymore, because you've locked the door from the inside. You silence yourself, you apologize on your own, you shrink to fit the frame they've built for you. They don't need chains, because they've turned your mind into the perfect prison. And that is the most terrifying moment of reactive abuse, when you truly believe that they are the victim and you are the villain. When reality has been reversed, you no longer need anyone to punish you, you do it yourself. That's the darkest stage of all. No more shouting, no more blame, just that quiet voice inside, whispering every day, maybe it really is my fault. You start feeling ashamed of your own emotions, ashamed for reacting, ashamed for getting angry, for saying harsh words out of despair. You begin to see yourself through their eyes, as someone weak, irrational, out of control. Slowly, you forget that those reactions were simply the result of prolonged endurance, not your true nature. You apologize for everything, even for things you didn't do wrong. You try to make them happy, even while you're breaking inside. You endure, waiting for a sign of approval, a hug, a gentle look, as if their forgiveness could somehow help you forgive yourself. But they never truly forgive, because forgiveness would mean the end of their game, and they survive on keeping it alive. You remain trapped. Every time you try to leave, fear and guilt pull you back. Every time you dare to say enough, that voice in your head whispers, if I had just stayed calm, maybe things would have been different. You convince yourself that if you change, they'll change too. But that's an illusion. In this game, you're always the one who must fix things, and they're always the one who gets forgiven. Day by day, your self-worth erodes. You stop trusting your emotions. You stop trusting your memory, your intuition, even your sense of value. You become a spectator of your own life, living in survival mode, rather than truly living. And then, just when they see you completely drained, they gently offer a bit of warmth. A sweet message, a soft hug, a vague apology. You let your guard down, you want to believe it. You think this is a new beginning, but it's not. It's just another cycle, a dose of emotional anesthesia to make you forget the pain long enough to endure it again. And so, shame turns into guilt, guilt turns into silence, and silence becomes a shackle. You no longer need anyone to cage you. Your mind has already built the prison. You lock yourself inside the fear of hurting others, trapped in the obsession that you're not good enough, not loving enough, not calm enough. But the truth is, you were never crazy. You were simply pushed to the edge of isolation. You were never weak. You were just exhausted from carrying the weight of loving someone who never knew how to love. A narcissist doesn't just make you cry, They make you question why you're crying. They don't just hurt you, they make you feel ashamed for being hurt. And when that happens, they no longer need to be cruel because you've learned how to punish yourself. At this stage, many people think they've accepted it, but in truth, it's paralysis. The heart no longer feels anything except emptiness. The mind no longer resists. It just spins in the same old loop. Maybe if I were better, things would have been different. That's when the darkness swallows you, not the darkness outside, but the one within, the place where your light is suffocated by shame. And if you don't recognize it, you'll stay there forever, believing that darkness is your fault, when in reality, it's the wound someone else left behind. And then one day, something inside you begins to change. Not because they suddenly became better, but because you've grown too tired to keep believing in the illusion. The pain is still there, but the fear starts to fade. You no longer want to prove anything, no longer want to argue, no longer want to make them understand. You just want peace. And in that stillness, something new begins to emerge, the truth. You realize that all this time, you've been fighting the wrong battle. You weren't fighting to be loved. You were fighting to keep an illusion alive. The person you loved may have never truly existed. They were just a mask, a reflection of everything you longed to see. When that mask finally falls, your heartbreak isn't about losing them. It's about losing faith in your own perception. But among the ruins, you begin to see something clearly. No one can manipulate you if you no longer need their approval. No one can make you feel small unless you give them that power. And silence, once their weapon of punishment, now becomes your shield. You start choosing silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You understand now, not everything deserves a response. You learn how to breathe again, how to sleep in peace, how to smile without asking for permission. You start setting boundaries, not as a wall against others, but as a sanctuary for your peace. You no longer need to prove your innocence, because when you truly know yourself, explanations become unnecessary. Healing doesn't arrive with noise, it comes quietly. In the mornings when you no longer feel the urge to check your phone for their messages. In the still moments when the pain no longer makes you tremble. In the realization that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer allowing them to live rent-free in your mind for another day. You don't need to defeat them, you only need to step out of their game. And when you walk away, without hate, without justification, carrying only awareness and compassion for yourself, that's the real victory. When you look back, you'll see they never changed, but you did. You've walked through wreckage, through sleepless nights, through moments you thought you were losing your mind, and yet, you're still here, grounded, lighter, awake. A narcissist can make you doubt yourself, but they can never touch your soul, because that soul, though once suffocated, has always carried a small, steady flame, quietly waiting for you to return. And when you choose conscious silence, when you choose to walk away without looking back, you reclaim everything they tried to take, your voice, your light, and your freedom. And finally, you understand something simple yet profound. You don't need them to feel worthy. Because your worth was never theirs to give, it has always been yours. You have survived. You have awakened. And now you are free. And if you're still in a relationship like this, remember, you're not crazy, you're just hurt. You're not weak, you just loved too deeply in a game that was never fair. Don't let anyone define you by the moments you were in pain, because only those who've been pushed to their limits truly understand the value of peace. Let your silence speak for you. Let distance restore your clarity. And believe this, there is nothing stronger than a soul that has been broken yet still chooses to love. But this time, to love itself. If you've been through this, leave a comment and share your journey. Your story might be the light that helps someone lost in the dark find their way out. And if you see yourself in these words, don't forget to leave a small sign, even just the number 1, to remind yourself and others that you're still here, you're awakening, and you're not alone. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel so we can keep going deeper, not just to understand the narcissist, but to understand ourselves. Because that is the true journey to freedom.